In today's video I'm going to show you how to create a simple click game called Catch the Clown. We'll be using GameMaker Studio to create this game, and it looks a little bit like this. The goal of the game is to click on the clown's head as many times as possible. Each time you click on the clown's head you earn yourself 10 points and the game becomes a little bit faster. So it does become a bit harder to click on the clown. You've also got 3 bombs floating around the room. If you accidentally click on one of them you'll notice that your score loses 20 points. Okay, there's no end to this game, it will just keep going. Eventually this clown will become so fast that it's almost impossible to click on it. So when you get to that point where you can no longer click on the clown, that is the end of the game, and whatever score you have will be your final score. So it's a bit of a competition with your mates to see who can get the highest score. Okay, so let's start making this. I'm going to close it off, and to begin with we're going to open up GameMaker. We're usually greeted with this welcome screen, and what we want to do today is click the third tab where it says new, and we're going to make a new project. The project name is going to be called Catch the Clown, and you'll need to save it in a directory or in a folder that is suitable for you. So I've just gone into my documents and I'm going to create a Year 10 IPR folder to save it into. When you're ready, click on create, and that will quickly set up a few folders for you, and it will also open up the main screen of GameMaker. There's a few windows here we don't need. Compile messages can be closed, and this GameMaker news can be closed. We should be sitting on a screen that looks something like this. This is our workspace in GameMaker. Now before we get started today, what we need to do is copy a few resources across to our account. These resources here need to be copied into the folder we created just a moment ago. Okay, so from Curriculum Drive, just grab that resources folder and copy it. Go into your account, and there's my Year 10 IPR folder, and there's my Catch the Clown game. So I'm going to open that up, and I'm just going to paste those resources into that folder. Okay, so now I've got my red background I'm going to use. I've got my 3 little pictures, the wall, the clown, and the bomb. These are called sprites. Okay, so they're the little pictures we need to use in our game, and I've also got 4 sound effects. You couldn't hear any sound effects before when I previewed the game, and that's because I've got headphones on. But as we go through making this game, you'll be able to hear those sounds through your own speakers. Okay, so popping back over to GameMaker, let's get started today. And we start by bringing in all the different resources we're going to use to create this game. Okay, so let's start by bringing in the sprites, and we do that by creating sprites. And we press that little red Pac-Man button at the top there. The first sprite we're going to bring in, just click on Load Sprite, go into your account and find your Catch the Clown folder and your resources. Looks like the bomb is going to be the first sprite we bring in. Okay, just click Remove Background, even though it hasn't got a background by the looks of things. Just click Remove Background anyway, just in case it does have a white background. We'll click on Open. We need to give this sprite a name, so we call it SPR_bomb. Every time you make a sprite, make sure you give it a meaningful name. You will be marked on this in your assignments, and also make sure you put SPR_ at the start, which just tells us we're making a sprite. Once you've done that, click OK, and you can see in your library on the left hand side here, you've brought the bomb into your library. We're going to click on the Create Sprite button again and load in the next sprite, which is the clown. Again, make sure you remove the background from this clown. It just gets rid of that green background behind his head. And we're going to give him the name SPR_clown and click OK. You can see we've now got the bomb and the clown in our library. So clicking that red Pac-Man button one more time to create our last sprite, we're going to choose the wall. Now when you choose the wall, you need to uncheck Remove Background. You can see that it's missing a piece of the background if we leave that checked. So by unchecking Remove Background, the entire wall comes back to play, and we can give it the name SPR_wall. Click on OK. So there's our 3 sprites we're going to use in our game. Now as soon as you bring sprites into your game, you need to convert them to objects. Sprites are just pictures that sit there and do basically nothing. Okay, it's just the look of our little pictures. If we want to actually code these sprites and make them do things in our game, we need to convert them to objects first. So we press this blue ball at the top to make an object. And the first object, we're going to give it the name OBJ_bomb. And where it says no sprite, we're just going to click on that and choose the bomb sprite. And click OK. You can see that's created a new object called Object Bomb. We're going to do that for the other two sprites now, so we'll create another object by clicking the blue ball at the top, and we'll call it obj_clown, and we'll click on the clown and attach that sprite to it. So now we've got an object clown. The last sprite is the wall. It's a bit of a special sprite. I'll show you why in a moment. Give it the name obj_wall. Attach the wall sprite to it. And you need to check this box down here that says solid. Okay, a wall's a solid object. We don't want our clown busting through that wall, otherwise he'll leave our game and won't come back. So we need to make sure that wall is a solid object. So check that box and then click OK. So you should have 3 sprites in your library and 3 objects. Next thing we're going to bring in is our background. And the way we make a background is click this little landscape icon at the top here. Now let's load in the background. We'll have to go back into our accounts and find that resources folder. There's our background there. It's that red one. All these boxes should be unchecked. When you click open, we need to give it a name. We'll call it BG, which stands for background. Put in an underscore and write red. So BG_red is its name. And you can see that background is now in our game. The last things we need to bring in are the sounds. Okay, and that's a pretty obvious one. Hit that grey speaker at the top there to create some sounds. Let's load up a sound. We'll have to go back into our accounts one last time, into the Catch the Clown resources folder. You can see we've got 3 sounds here. First one we're going to bring in is the bounce sound. We'll highlight the name there, change it to SND_bounce. Okay, SND stands for sound, and bounce, that's going to be played every time the clown's head bounces off the wall. So click OK, and you can see sound bounce appearing in our library. We've got 2 more sounds there to bring in. Let's load the next one. It's the click sound. So we'll call it SND_click. And we'll click on OK. The last sound we're going to bring in is when we click a bomb. It's called ow. So SND, we'll just call it ow. And if you want to preview those sounds, you can press that green play button there to have a listen to them. Okay, it will repeat the sound over and over again, but you get a glimpse of what that sound actually sounds like. So click on OK. Now you can bring music in to the background of your games as well. So if you've got some MP3 tracks or any audio track for that matter that you'd like to put in the background of your game, feel free to load that in. We might have a look at doing that in future tutorials. But it looks like we're all good now. We've got our sprites sorted, we've got our 3 sounds, we've got our red background, and we've got our 3 objects. So we are ready to start creating the first level in our game. To create a level in your game, you need to make something called a room. And we create rooms by pressing this white box at the top here with a blue border around it. Okay. You'll end up with a screen looking like this. It's a rather large room at the moment, so I'm going to change the size of it. You've got in your settings tab here the name. We might just call it level 1. And then the width and the height. Let's really drop that width and height down. I'm going to make it 640 by 480. So 640 width, 480 height, and you can see it just brings the size of our room down a lot smaller. Still in this window, we're going to click on the Backgrounds tab next. And if you don't like that red background I chose before, you can actually choose a solid color as your background if you like. So if you want to have blue, you could have blue. If you wanted pink, you could have pink. But what I'm going to do, you don't have to have solid colors as your background. You can actually bring in pictures, and that's what we did earlier on. Down a bit further where it says no background, you can actually click on that and you can access your red background you brought in before. It's got a bit of a texture across the top of it, so I think that looks pretty cool. So we'll stick with that as our background. Now to actually bring in the objects to make this room look good, you need to go to the Objects tab. In the Objects tab, you want to start by just left clicking your mouse where you can see that bomb. And we've got object wall, clown and bomb to play with. We're going to start with the wall. What you want to do is just click your wall all the way around the outside of this room. Individually clicking around the wall can take a while, so a shortcut is to hold Control and Shift at the same time and just click and drag, and that will let you put in those pieces of the wall a bit quicker. Now if you make a mistake, for example what I just did there, you can hold down Shift and just right click on those shapes and that will remove them. Okay, so you should have a nice grey border around your page and that red background behind it. Going back to our Objects tab up here, just left click your mouse and choose the clown. You want to put one clown in your room, you can put it anywhere, but I'm going to start it somewhere in the middle. And then we're going to go back and left click in this box and choose the bombs. And we're going to put 3 bombs in our room. Again, they can start anywhere. So I'm just going to spread them around the page in the shape of a triangle. Okay, that's how our room is going to look at our first level. So click on the green tick button there. And you can see that we've got level 1 now down here in our rooms. You can easily double click on level 1 to access it if you'd like to make any changes, but we want to keep it simple just like that for now. Alright, the next step is to start the programming or the coding to make our game actually work. So what we need to do is open up the object clown first of all by double clicking on it. Okay, the clown is where most of the action is going to take place. Okay, the first thing we want to do is get this clown moving. So to get the clown moving, you need to add in an event. Okay, the first event we're going to put in is a create event. That means when the clown is first created and appears on our screen, what do we want it to do? We can give it some actions and tell it what to do. So we basically want the clown to move around the room by itself. So on the right hand side here, this bunch of red arrows, just right click on it. And we need to tell it which way we want the clown to move. And we click on these arrows here telling it which way we want it to move. I'm going to click every single arrow there because I want it to move in all directions. Be careful not to click that center square. If you click that, it could stop moving at any time, your clown. So just leave it unchecked, but I do want you to press all those arrows so they all turn red. The speed I want you to set for your clown is speed 4. It's a good starting speed. Click OK. So what we've done here is when we create the clown and it first appears on our screen, it's going to start moving by itself in any direction. Okay, that's a good start to our game. The next thing we want to do is bring in the click event. That means when we click on the clown, we want to get some points and speed our game up a little bit. So we go back down to this add event button here. And what we're going to do is find the mouse event and choose the left button. So this means when we press our left mouse button on the clown, we can give it some actions and tell it what we should do. So the first thing we should do is give ourselves a score. So go down to this little score tab, choose the first bunch of yellow dots there in that grey square by right clicking on it. You can choose what score you get. I want you to start with 10 points today, and I want you to check the relative box. By checking the relative box, each time you click on the clown's head, it will keep adding your score up from the previous score. If you don't check relative, you'll get 10 points, but that's it. It won't keep adding your score up. Each time you click on your clown's head, your score will stay at 10. So we need to check relative to make sure our score continues to add up. Once we get ourselves 10 points, I think we should play a sound. So let's go to the main 1 tab and click on this first grey speaker. Okay, so once you right click on that, you can choose which sound you want to play when you click on the clown's head. And we've got a sound called sound click. The loop will be false. We don't want it to keep playing. We just want it to play once. So click OK. So we've got 2 things happening now when we click on the clown's head. We get 10 points and we play the sound of the click. We also want the clown to disappear and then reappear in a different location. So the way we do that is click on the Move tab at the top here and choose this option here with the X, the question mark and the red arrow pointing to them. That is the jump to random position action. Okay, a box will appear but you don't need to touch anything there, so just click on it OK. So now we've got our clown jumping to a random position on the page once we click on it. Finally, we want to speed the game up a little bit. Okay, so we're going to tell this clown to move again by right clicking on those bunch of red arrows, and we're going to tell it to move in any direction. The speed this time though is going to be set to 0.5 and relative. That means it's going to speed up just that half speed from what it was before. So they're the 4 actions you need under the left click event. So get 10 points when we click on the clown. We'll play the sound of it being clicked on. We'll move the clown to a random location, and we'll start moving him a little bit faster. Okay, so that's sounding good. The next thing we might do with this clown, actually that might do us for the clown for the minute. Actually no, we'll put in a collision with the wall. I forgot about that. We need to add in an event for when the clown hits the wall. Okay, we need to tell it to actually come back into our game. If we don't tell it to come back into our game, he'll just go over the top of that wall and he'll disappear and won't come back. So when our clown hits that wall, we want him to bounce back into our game, and we just need to pick this button here, which is the bounce action. Okay, we just leave all the settings as they are and click OK. So our clown is going to bounce against solid objects. When it does bounce against that wall, let's play a sound. So let's go to our main 1 tab and choose that grey speaker again. We've got the bounce sound. Loop should be set to false again. We don't want that sound to keep playing over and over again. Okay, so what we've just done is when the clown collides with the wall, it will bounce off the wall and come back into our game, and then it will also play the sound of it bouncing off the wall. Okay, so now I think our clown sprite is done. So let's click on OK. You can test your game as you go by pressing this green play button at the top. Now it's a little bit painful because GameMaker is a bit slow and it has to compile your game and go through all its little bits and pieces. It can take about 30 seconds or so, maybe even up to a minute before your game actually starts running. But eventually it will. Looks like it's going pretty quick today. Okay, so we've got our clown here looking good. We can click on it. It jumps to a random position. Hopefully it speeds up a little bit too. Looks like it's getting quicker. Yeah, so that's working nicely. We haven't got our scoreboard in yet, and we haven't got these bombs working yet, so we need to do that next. Okay, so you can close that, and you can close off this compile form as well. Let's get these bombs working. Okay, very similar to the clown they are. What we're going to do is add an event in on object bomb, and it's going to be a create event. So when the bomb is first created and appears on our screen, let's tell it to move in all directions. I'm going to keep it at speed 3, so just a little bit slower than the clown starts at, and we're going to click OK. That gets our bombs moving. The other thing we need to put in is a mouse left button event. Okay, so add in the event for the left mouse button. That means what happens when we click on this bomb with our left mouse button. What we want to happen, we want to go to our score tab, and we're going to give ourselves a score. So choose that first grey box there. The score is going to be -20. So that's losing points now, because we shouldn't be clicking the bombs. If we do, we lose points. Make sure you pick relative. That way it takes 20 points off our score as it is. Click OK. So we lose 20 points when we hit a bomb. We also have a sounder that we can play. Okay, so we've got this sound option here, and the sound we've got is ow. Loop will be false again. Click OK. The final thing we need to do is just make the bomb disappear and then reappear in a different location. So go to your Move tab and select the Jump to Random Position action. Okay. Don't have to touch anything here, so just click on OK. So those are our 3 settings. When we click on a bomb, we lose 20 points. We play a sound to show that we've actually clicked the bomb, and we move the bomb to a different position on the page. Okay, so that's sounding good. The other thing we need to do is a collision with the wall. So when the bomb collides with the wall, okay, so collision with the wall, you want it to do the same as the clown and just bounce back into the game. So right click on that little arrow bouncing off the wall. So it's going to bounce against solid objects. So that should have our bombs working. The last thing we need to do now is bring in a little score panel to show our score. And the way we do that is we create an empty object. So let's press the blue ball at the top here to make an object. We'll give it the name obj_score. And there's going to be no sprite attached to this. Okay. What we do add in though is an event. And it's called a draw event. We're going to draw the score on our screen. So choose draw and then select the first option there that says draw. And we're going to go all the way down to, I think it's this one, the score. Let me just hover over the top of it. Yep. We want to draw the score. Okay, so instead of choosing that first one, we choose the last one, the last bunch of yellow dots with the cream background. And it asks for the positions or the coordinates to put our score panel on the page. So if I select 0 and 0, I'll just show you what that's going to do. I'll go to level 1 here. If you hover over the top of your grid, you can see you've got X and Y values. And if I hover my mouse over this very first square, you can see that's X and Y equal to 0. That's where my score panel would be displayed right now if I ran my game. That's a little bit hard to see up there, so what I'm going to do is move it down to this first red square. And that's at X32 and Y32, so that's my coordinates. I just found them down here. As I hover over that square, you can see it's 32 by 32. So I'm going to go back into this draw the value of the score action by double clicking on it and changing the X and Y values to 32 and 32. And I'll click on OK. Now by default your text comes out as black. Okay, and I don't think that's going to contrast very well with the red background. So what I might need to do is go down to this draw tab at the bottom, and I'm going to change the color by clicking this little color palette. The color I want is white, and I'm going to click on OK and OK. Now I just need to move this set the color above those yellow dots there. So set the color needs to come first. It'll make my text white, and then it will draw the value of my score. So it's going to draw the scoreboard in the corner of my game. And we can click OK. I'll need to go back to my level 1 now by double clicking on it. And in my objects, you'll see that I've got object score in here now. So you can click anywhere and put that in your game. I'm just going to click in the position up the top there. And you can see a little question mark appears, just saying it hasn't got a sprite attached to it, so it doesn't know what it should look like. But that's alright. That's how we want it to look. You can press the green tick at the top of the page now and test your game by pressing that green play button one more time. Now hopefully everything's gone to plan and our game should be working. Okay. So it's just loading. So there's our little score panel now. It's sitting in the 32 by 32 coordinates. Let's see if I click on a bomb. Yep, we're losing 20 points. Each time we click on the clown, we should be getting 10 points. So it's going to take a little while to make this up, but I'm back in the positive there now. And you can see the clown getting faster and faster. Okay, so it's going to become quite tricky to click on once you get a few hundred points. So that's our game created. It's looking pretty good. I can hear through my headphones that the sounds are working. Hopefully the sound is working on yours. When you're done, just close that off. Close your compile form there and save it. Okay. If you want to run this game at home on your own computer without GameMaker, you'll need to go to File and Create Application. And it's just going to ask you where you want to save it. So I might just go into the Catch the Clown folder, call it Catch the Clown, and you'll see it will save it as an exe file, which is a program file. Click on Save, and that's done. You've now finished your first simple click game using GameMaker.